you're new here, this is a series I'm doing where I talk about books and my opinions on them. So Raised by the Roofing Carpenters, Catcher in the Rye, Franny and Zooey, and 9 Stories, all written by J.D. Salinger. The reason that I wanted to talk about J.D. Salinger is because I feel like people mostly pass up the opportunity to read more into his work, just because surface level it is really like annoying. Obviously not everyone's gonna like J.D. Salinger, and I can see why, but I just feel like there's just certain things about J.D. Salinger's works that like people just don't really talk about that much. Something I think gets really passed along and like people don't really talk about is that like he was a follower of Zen Buddhism, like also Hinduism. It actually appears in his works a lot, which I found kind of interesting. I didn't expect that. That being said, let's just get right into it. So my least favorite, Catcher in the Rye. So Catcher in the Rye is going to be at the bottom of my list for my J.D. Salinger top books, mostly because I definitely feel he's written a lot better than The Catcher in the Rye. I think The Catcher in the Rye is important though, like prose. I think The Catcher in the Rye is important because it gives a good like base stance of what J.D. Salinger like is about. If you don't like The Catcher in the Rye, maybe you won't like his other works, I'm not sure. Cons, it is very like kind of one-sided. I can see why people have a hard time empathizing with the narrator. It's not particularly like entertaining, and it's not particularly like, you know, upbeat. It is really funny though. And then for the next book, Franny and Zooey. Franny and Zooey is the story of the 2 twins of the Glass family, Franny and Zooey. Fun fact, Zooey Deschanel was named after Zooey from that book. The first story, which is Franny, entitled just Franny, is about this girl who carries The Way of the Pilgrim, which is a book about religion, and religion comes up a lot. Franny is on a date with her boyfriend and it's just not hitting, and she just like literally can't. And I think it's a good story when you're just like trying to have fun but you just like literally can't get out of like whatever rut you're in. Like it's really about that. And then Zooey is this longer like story where Zoe is basically having a conversation with his mom, and it's like a lot about just like family dynamics, like Zoe's relationship to his mother, their relationship to each other, and how it's changed because one of their siblings, not the twins, killed themselves. It's a lot of reading between the lines. Okay, nothing happened. Everything is exactly the same. So to finish up Franny and Zooey, I like this book a lot. I just don't think it provides as much of a resolution as much as the other books. And yeah, that's just my opinion. So next up on the list is 9 Stories. So 9 Stories is like the book that I read, and then I found out that J.D. Salinger is actually like a spiritualist slash Buddhist slash Hinduist, whatever. There is so much like religion and spirituality in this book, and there's just like so many elements that like this book contains. It contains like his character Seymour Glass. It contains like this character who literally I think references the Vedanta Upanishad of Hinduism, which is like genuinely very cool and interesting that this author, who's literally like an American man, like has so much respect for and has written characters that have literally been actually spiritual and like reference the text, the religious text, like in his work. And yeah, this book is really interesting and it encompasses so much, and that's why I enjoy it a lot. So last but not least, my favorite J.D. Salinger work. You know, maybe you haven't heard of it, but I'm gonna put you on right now because this bitch is so good. Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters and Seymour an Introduction. So the first short story, which is my favorite short story, opens up with like a character reciting a Buddhist like short story, and it goes into like the whole story of the story. And Seymour Glass is in it. Seymour is the character that, spoilers, kills himself in the novel previously. Seymour Glass walks out on his marriage. It's like he's about to get married and Seymour Glass walks out. And the only person from Seymour's side of the family who's invited to the wedding is his brother. And so it's the story that his brother has of the whole experience of the wedding being canceled super last minute, and everyone's there and everyone's like, what the fuck, what do you mean he walked out? And his brother's just there like, oh, I'm the only one from Seymour's side of the family. And like, it's just super funny, and like the characters just feel so real. It's just really good. Everyone's like talking about like why Seymour is like, she should have never married him, she was too good for him. Seymour's like this toxic, psychotic, like sociopathic jerk who like just, you know, does bad things. And everyone at the wedding is like listing rumors of what they heard like that Seymour has done. Meanwhile, his brother is the one who actually knows Seymour. Being friends with somebody that you know is a good person, but you know, other people can point to their actions and say, well, this is probably why they're not a good person. Like Seymour was on a kid's television show, so they're like, oh my god, this kid has an inflated ego. Meanwhile, Seymour knows that like they basically had to drag Seymour to do the show every day because he didn't want to do it. And like they just pointed out every single like instance of things that Seymour has done that seem like bad, but at the same time Seymour is literally a human being. It kind of balances like the feeling that you know, Seymour, not a perfect individual. It balances that well. People who are jumping the bandwagon and hating him, also not bad people. They're just, you know, obviously this is their friend that they care deeply for, like the woman who got walked out on. This is their, you know, dear like relative or friend or whatever. Obviously they're gonna take her side, and it's just very nuanced and complex and shows a lot of empathy for just people in general. So that's that on that. Let me know if you have any book reviews you want me to do. I could do like author series. There's a couple authors that I've read like the majority of what they've done, like John Green, and I could probably do a Tesla Mosby Feg too, but I'll have to see. I hope you have a great day, and goodbye.